Coming up today, South Korean family members are gathering near the border as the two Koreas prepare to hold a highly anticipated round of reunions for families separated since the Korean War. Issues such as the government's decision to create a single state-authorized history textbook and proposed labour market reforms take centre stage as the National Assembly begins deliberations on next year's budget. Plus, the price competitiveness of Korean exporters slumps to a 6-year low. They are suffering because of the strength of the local currency. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 19th of October. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we begin with the highly anticipated inter-Korean family reunions. With the historic event just one day away now, South Koreans who will get to meet their long-lost relatives living in North Korea are set to gather close to the border in Gangwon-do province this afternoon for a pre-session. We are going to connect live to our Gwon-soa, who is at the venue. Soa, fill us in.
Hi Mark, I'm here in Sokcho at Hanwha Resort in the east of Korea, in the east of South Korea, I should mention, on a day like this. And as you can see behind me, there are already media from all across the country and around the world because this is a huge event, because families who haven't seen their other members across the border for more than 60 years will be reunited. And it is the second reunion in around 5 years. Now, exactly 393 people from the south will be meeting their counterparts in the north with 96 people. Earlier it was 394 in the south, but one of the families could not make it due to health problems. And then in the second round of the meeting, there will be 188 North Koreans meeting 90 South Koreans. Mark?
Well, it looks as though preparations are going well, and I must say those families must be feeling a real mix of emotions, mostly happiness, having waited so long to see their long-lost relatives in the north. But Soa, can you just walk us through the reunion process that's going to be happening this week?
Sure, Mark. And for that, let's take a look at the details by taking a look at the schedule here. As I said before, the meeting will be divided into two parts. And already I talked to some family members that have already come here, gathered here in Sokcho, and they will be briefed on they will be briefed later on the itinerary and also some precautions, the do's and don'ts in North Korea. And then tomorrow they will be heading off to Mount by bus, and the first official meeting will be a mass reunion in the afternoon, followed by a dinner. And on the 21st, there will be the individual reunions, which I bet will be one of the most precious moments for the South and North Korean families. And on the last day, the 22nd, there will be the farewell meeting for 2 hours. And the second round will be held from October 24th to the 26th, according to a similar schedule. Now, what is very noticeable at this year's reunion is that the farewell meeting will be held for 2 hours, whereas in the past it was only for 1 hour. And, you know, the farewell meeting is one of the most saddest moments because the families know that they probably will never ever see each other again after the meeting. So it is going to be a very, very precious 2 hours. Now, that's all I have for now, but I'll be filling you in with more later in the evening. This has been Gwon-soa reporting live from Sokcho at Hanwha Resort.
Gwon-soa reporting there. We'll be bringing you extensive coverage of the reunions over the course of this week. Now, in other news, 7 National Assembly standing committees have begun deliberating government budget plans for next year. As each standing committee's deliberations end, the Assembly's Special Budget Committee will confirm next year's budget plans by the end of November. However, as rival parties are wrestling with various other issues, notably the government-issued history textbook issue, and government-led labour market reform initiatives, budget settlement discussions probably aren't going to go that smoothly. The ruling Saenuri party has asked the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, to cooperate with it on the passage of 5 labour reform-related bills and the ratification of the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement. However, the MPAD has vowed to reject some items, including the budget necessary for the government-led textbook. Now, in economic news, Korean exporters' price competitiveness is sliding, with a related index hitting a 6-year low on the back of the strong Korean won. Shin Se-min reports.
Korea's exports, a key driver of the economy, are feeling the heat from falling foreign currencies and the strength of the Korean won. The Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency says the country's leading export sentiment index was just 45.4 in the third quarter of this year, the lowest it has been since the figures were first compiled back in 2009. The corresponding figure stood at 53.6 in the second quarter of 2011, but it has been on the slide ever since, unable to rise above the 50-point mark. Analysts say the fall in export sentiment is largely being driven by global currency depreciations, with multiple countries using monetary easing to make their goods cheaper on the global stage. The agency notes that while China and Japan have engaged in aggressive quantitative easing to depreciate their currencies, Korea's currency has remained relatively strong. Data by Statistics Korea, an investment and securities firm, shows the Korean won-US dollar exchange rate remained at 100.7 in the third quarter this year, barely unchanged from its base rate of 100 in early 2010. In comparison, the Japanese yen fell to 137.2 over the same period. The euro also declined to 126.1. Experts say that if the trend continues, Korea may be forced to act.
Korea will inevitably join the currency battle at some point, but the government should only make a move when the economy picks up. Korea should not solely focus on exports.
Experts say that while a weakened won alone could not revive exports given the current economic conditions, it's important to keep up with the global trend, and efforts to depreciate the local currency might be a policy to consider down the line. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, some news that just came in within the last hour or so. China's third quarter GDP growth rate has come in at 6.9%. It's the first time it has fallen below 7% in over 6 years. The on-year growth is also down 0.1 percentage point from the previous quarter, but slightly above market expectations of 6.8%. The decline is partly attributed to the country's slowing industrial output, which, although growing 5.7% in September from a year ago, is below market predictions of 6%. Lee Gun-hee, the hospitalized chairman of Korea's largest conglomerate, Samsung Group, remains the country's richest stockholder. According to conglomerate tracker Chaebol.com, he held just over $10.1 billion worth of stocks as of last Friday. That's up nearly 14% from last year. He is followed by CEO of cosmetics giant Amore Pacific, Seo Bae, whose stocks jumped nearly 48% on year to $8.5 billion. Lee Gun-hee's son and vice chairman of Samsung Electronics, Lee Jae-yong, is third. His stocks jumped a staggering 145% from the previous year. The 100 richest stockholders list includes 20 newcomers, including the chiefs of auto parts manufacturer Hanyang Precision and the chairman of Kolong Group. Now, as Korea struggles with a chronically low birth rate and rapidly aging population, the Korean government plans to change the official defining age of senior citizens. It's going to raise it somewhat. Lee Ji-won has more.
The Ministry of Health and Welfare said on Sunday it plans on raising the official age defining senior citizens from 65 to 70 to help ease the burden of a projected steep increase in welfare costs in the next few years. In 2000, the elderly population accounted for 7.2% of Korea's total population and has jumped almost twofold to 13.1% as of 2015. If this growth trend continues, the government foresees the percentage of seniors surging to 37.4% by 2050. Such a demographic shift means the elderly would comprise more than a third of the population requiring pensions. Meanwhile, the working-age population is forecast to shrink from 2016. An increase in the average life expectancy to almost 80 years has further pressured the government to seek new measures to rein in the challenges presented by a rapidly aging population. While the average retirement age now is 60, pensions are usually received at 65. However, varying circumstances may see this figure increase. According to the government, raising the defining age of senior citizens may help state coffers save about $2.3 billion annually. But some have raised concerns protesting against the age change. Critics say the living standards of underprivileged seniors may grow worse. 이지원, Arirang News.
Now, every person in the world, no matter where they live, aspire to live a life that is good, happy and healthy. The OECD released a report recently, and does so every so often, which aims to measure people's well-being by asking them, how's life? And for South Koreans, the answer is generally not that great. Son Jung-in has more.
Life satisfaction in South Korea remains substantially lower than the OECD average. According to the organization's recent How's Life report, South Koreans reported average life satisfaction of 5.8 out of 10. The figure is lower than the OECD average of 6.6, ranking 27th among 34 member countries. The organization studied 11 parameters such as income, jobs, health, and work-life balance to assess how people perceive the quality of their lives. Children in Korea feel a relatively low sense of belonging in school. It doesn't get much better at home as they spend only 48 minutes a day on average with their parents, less than children in any other OECD country. The reading and creative problem-solving skills of Korean teenagers are among the highest, but more of them are left neglected, with 8.5% neither in employment, education, or training, the 9th highest in the OECD. In terms of health, although Korea has one of the highest life expectancies, it ranked the lowest in the category of self-reported health, meaning South Koreans are the least confident in their own health conditions. It's a phenomenon that may be closely linked to the collapse in work-life balance, where Korea was ranked one from bottom at 33rd due to long working hours. South Korea ranked a dead last 34th for community, or the network of assistance available to individuals faced with the crisis. Only 73% of respondents said they had a social network they could rely on for assistance when facing difficulties, well below the average of 88% for countries examined. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, dictatorships like that in North Korea will collapse. This according to the Nobel Prize winner for Literature, Svetlana Alexievich. Speaking with Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency, the writer from Belarus said the 21st century was an era of freedom and the end of dictatorships. She added reunification of the two Koreas will eventually come, and noted it is important for the two Koreas to peacefully achieve a reunited Korea. The Nobel laureate is known for her interviews with people who have experienced extreme hardships, like the Second World War and the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, and recomposing them into novels. Now, it has emerged that two North Korean diplomats were recently caught trying to smuggle thousands of Cuban cigars into Brazil. The South Korean Consulate General in Sao Paulo says the diplomats were caught at Viracopos International Airport late last month, attempting to go through customs without declaring the cigars. Customs authorities say 3,800 cigars were confiscated, and the North Korean officials who had been coming from Panama were released. Now, this isn't the first time North Korean diplomats have been caught trying to sneak items past customs officers in Brazil. In 2010, some diplomats were stopped trying to smuggle fishery products into Sao Paulo. Authorities in Korea's southern city of Busan are on the lookout for 13 Chinese tourists who failed to join the rest of their tour group on their ongoing cruise trip to Japan. Police in Busan say the tourists, 7 men and 6 women, were last seen in the early hours of Sunday morning on a city bus tour. Officers say they are trying to track them down, but say it could be a case of illegal sojourn, as all of them failed to board the Sapphire Princess cruise ship prior to its departure at 10 p.m. last night. Now, in an ultra-fast-paced society like Korea, keeping traditions alive isn't the easiest task. But a bunch of craftsmen are fighting the tide as they prepare for this year's International Craftworks exhibition that's going to be held in Korea's central city of Cheongju. Sono Lee reports.
These craftsmen inspect feathers they will use to create a traditional bow and arrow. Such weapons were once used for hunting and wars. Old-fashioned books and folding screens made in the traditional Korean way are a rare sight these days.
It was hard for me to realize how they were made just through books, but seeing all this live gave me more insight and also how people lived during those times.
Other items include this kayagum, or Korean harp. The craftsman has to make sure all the notes ring properly. Another puts finishing touches on a wooden spoon and prepares to display it.
Lacquering it a few times gives the wood a nice scent, protects it from insects and humidity, and also preserves it for many, many years.
Making old-fashioned paper from tree bark requires a painstakingly long process. A ceramics artist carves out pieces of porcelain the old Joseon Dynasty way. Traditional works such as these are becoming harder to come by as more and more people seek out modern handiworks.
Young people don't want to learn these skills, so I don't think the tradition will carry on.
With this year's International Craft Biennale exhibition approaching in Cheongju, these craftsmen are determined to keep their traditions alive. Sono Lee, Arirang News.
Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com. Have a great day. Goodbye.